Misdemeanors, minor crimes, petty offenses, they're the great unappreciated bottom, if you will, of our criminal system. Loitering, trespassing, crimes of poverty, crimes through which we punish the homeless, people who have no resources, those are misdemeanor offenses. 80% of American criminal dockets are misdemeanors. This is how most Americans experience our criminal system. We call these cases petty and minor, but there's nothing petty or minor about sustaining a misdemeanor conviction. People who pass through the misdemeanor system are routinely deprived of their jobs. It destroys their credit. They can lose government benefits, financial aid. It can destroy their immigration status. They're spending weeks, maybe months, incarcerated in jail. Often they are only incarcerated because they cannot afford to pay bail. And the mark of a misdemeanor lasts a lifetime. The majority of employers say that they check criminal records to see whether anybody has sustained a conviction, including a misdemeanor. And so these offenses, these arrests, these cases that we treat as chump change, in fact, are destroying lives and destroying families and undermining the economic well-being of communities thousands of times over every day. One of the challenges of writing about and studying the misdemeanor system is that it's so enormous. 13 million misdemeanor cases are filed every year. That's not even including traffic, the tens of millions of additional traffic misdemeanor cases. But 13 million misdemeanors, that's 3 or 4 times the number of state felonies. We've seen some nicknames for the system emerge over the years: assembly line justice, cattle herding, McJustice. It captures the notion that we're rushing cases through without looking at evidence, without checking the law. It predictably produces wrongful convictions. We convict innocent people of misdemeanors thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of times every year. It turns out that the misdemeanor system is a moneymaker. It is generating revenue by stripping poor and working people through fines and fees, generating revenue for the criminal system itself, for police departments, for prosecutors' offices, public defender offices, for courts. Even entire cities rely on that revenue stream. We might understand the misdemeanor system as a kind of regressive taxation mechanism. It's taking money from the most vulnerable, the most economically vulnerable, and using it to fund the criminal system itself. I think as a community, over the past decade or so, we have come to understand that mass incarceration is not just criminal policy. It's a form and a mechanism of race discrimination. It's part of the history of race discrimination and inequality in this country. It really starts with misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are that first net, the net that sweeps people of color disproportionately into the criminal system, gives them arrest records, gives them jail time, gives them all the burdens that we know sustaining a minor offense imposes on individuals. This is really the key to understanding why our criminal system generally is so racially disproportionate, racially skewed, and racially unjust. It is time to recognize that misdemeanors represent some of the most destructive aspects of our criminal system. Eric Garner was stopped and killed by police in New York for a misdemeanor. Philando Castile was stopped and killed by Minnesota police for a misdemeanor traffic offense. George Floyd was stopped and killed by police for allegedly committing a misdemeanor. The misdemeanor net not only sweeps in poor people, vulnerable people, and people of color into the criminal system and burdens them in their lives, but it exposes them, it overexposes them to police violence based on the most minor and harmless of conduct. There are many ways that we can shrink this enormous misdemeanor system. Police can arrest less. We can stop using policing to address mental health issues, to criminalize poverty. Prosecutors can decline to charge those arrests. Everyone who is arrested for a misdemeanor need not become a criminal defendant. Legislators can engage in decriminalization and legalization to take those enormous array of misdemeanor codes and violations off the criminal books and find less violent, less intrusive, and less punitive ways to regulate our public spaces. 2020 has been an extraordinary year for the American criminal system and therefore for our misdemeanor system. Misdemeanors have really been central to the conversation about police reform, about defunding the police, about just how expensive and unfair and racially unjust our criminal system is. We have seen progressive prosecutors take office in city after city, in state after state, promising to shrink the misdemeanor net as central to their progressive agenda to make our criminal system more fair and more just. A new administration is taking over in Washington that has promised to do criminal justice and criminal reform differently. So between the national government's commitment to a different criminal reform conversation and the enormous change and new leadership at the local level, I think we are entering a very exciting time.